Gonzalesą, profesorių Baskų universiteto. Įdomu tai, kad jis yra šiaip jau krepšinio žmogus ir yra Dominikos Respublikos krepšinio rinktinės fizinio rengimo treneris, tačiau labai intensyviai besidomintis ir dirbantis su naujosiam technologijom. Tai galbūt pranešimas šiek tiek bus specifiškas, sakykime, susijęs daugiau su sportu, bet tai parodys, kaip plačiai galima naudoti, sakykime, tas technologijas ir aplamai ši inovacija, kurie jis pristatys, yra viena, sakykime, tokių paskutinių technologinių dalykų ir aš labai norėčiau, kad jūs aktyviai klausinėtumėt, sakykime, net ir pranešimo metu pakelkite rankas, jeigu kažkam tai kažkas tai neaišku, pakartot ir jeigu mažai garso, taip pat sakykit, kad būtų kuo daugiau naudos. Okay, Julio, is yours. Time.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. It's a big pleasure to be here in this international event. For that, I want to thank to Mindaugas for his invitation in your country. It's my first time in Lithuania, especially after the final during Eurobasket. Lithuania, Spain, sorry. Gasol is in the best moment of his sports career. For me, it's a special, yes, okay, I don't know what's that. Here is up here. I know. It's probably one, I know. Yeah, I know why.
One second. Keep just stop.
Well. Yeah, to synchronize again. No yet.
It was okay, yeah, before?
Yeah.
Are you in presentation mode now? Yeah. No, here. Are you in presentation mode?
Yeah. Yeah, it's here.
It takes time for him sometimes to synchronize
What's the problem? Synchronize.
with the projector.
Okay.
Give him a minute, because he would have to adjust the resolution. See now? Okay, it's coming.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. These are the main common message that the Olympic Committee in UK sent it to the world the months before to starting the last Olympic Games in England. Science dominates sports. Science can help an athlete and can help the rules. Welcome to the sport science. Was the main message to the athletes, to the coaches, in probably one of the most successful events during the Olympic history worldwide. Although we are talking about top-level sports, and we are working with top-level athletes, always our first reflection is about the first step in performance. When you get excellent results, probably the baseline level with athletes is to get a good health. This is our first reflection, especially when many athletes are always beyond the limits to get the most successful results, gold medals in Olympic Games or in World Championship. And sometimes we have to understand that less than 1% of the performance is the key to get a gold medal in Olympic Games, because in the 4 positions, nobody remembers who was. I said that because in top legal sports, especially in United, the most radical competition as NBA is a very difficult system to understand what's the performance level of the players. See this special picture, the Bulls during the last season schedule, and usually during the game, they have to play more than 4 times per week. So it's a very difficult problem when you are working with players that the main keys to get a good performance is to prevent the injuries of playing again, go to the plane, go to another city, play again, and I don't know how many times per season, more than 80 games per season playing. So they have no time to train. They have no time to prepare the matches. Always they have time to prevent injuries, gain, and recover. So in this part of the key points, we are working with players, with athletes, to improve the performance using the new technologies. Especially because when you are working with top-level athletes, it's very difficult to measure. This is the last report for the main director of the Olympic training in the United States, in Colorado Springs, about a brief report talking about the measuring issues with top-level athletes. And sometimes they know that it's very difficult to work with this type of players. So what is the main tool to key when you are working with these excellent athletes? I don't know if you know that guy. It's Andreas Reilert, the Ironman triathlete, top class. And 2 years in Frankfurt, they get the best result in an Ironman race, 7 hours, 40 minutes. And immediately after the race, when he got the gold record, one journalist asked him, Andreas, what is your main secret to get these excellent results? And he answered to the journalist, simple things. I need simple things to improve my performance. So during the last year, many different roles around the coach are appearing to get good information. Especially in the last 3 years has appeared a new role in sport science, is the recovery expert. And he's a guy who presents scientific tools to bridging the gap between knowledge and applied things, to give to the coach simple, brief, useful information to improve the performance. Because during recovery protocols, during recovery periods for athletes, although we have enough time to recovery players or to recovery athletes after the match or after the races, the recovery area is a new area in sport science. We have only 10 years of scientific information to apply the useful and optimal protocols. This is the Dr. Sona Halson, the head of the Australian Institute of the Sports, the Department of Recovery, and in his opinion, although the recovery is a very important part in top-level sports, we have not useful and enough information to apply individual protocols for players. When you are talking about this type of sport, the top elite, it's absolutely necessary to know what is the type of fatigue to apply the correct protocols. In the sports physiology, the main mechanisms that produce fatigue are very studied. But the new key points about the new ideas to understand what the players are inside the fatigue during the matches are now in a topic, especially among coaches and among scientists, to get the activation of the genes information, the capacity to maintain the immunity, the exercise muscle injuries, the timing of the protocols, the individual response. There are many key points idea to understand why the athletes, in this example in soccer, are the main mechanisms of the fatigue. So with the players, with the top-level players, soccer players are playing a match, we have to understand that there are three types of fatigues. In the first part of the match, probably the disbalance between ions in the homeostasis is the main mechanism. When the match is going to the second part, the hyperthermia is probably the most important factor to reduce the fatigue in soccer players. And at the end of the match, the most important reservoir of energy is the depletion of the glycogenase index. So to get good information during the matches, the official matches with players, and to apply the correct recovery protocols, we have to understand and we have to do the last technology in sports. As you know, the hyperthermia is a phenomenon when you are increased the core temperature about 38 degrees. This parameter causes central fatigue when you are induced by intensive exercise. So there are many factors that can influence in core temperature in human body. Among of them, the recent activity, the environmental conditions, the hour, the sex, training level as well, and the exercise intensity are the main factors that produce hyperthermia in body, and the risk on health is very clearly if you increase this core temperature around 40 degrees. The experimental condition, the experimental studies, historical papers in human physiology have demonstrated that when you increase the core temperature in body, when you control with a group, the effects on body are very extensive, okay? The difference increment of body temperature when you compare esophageal temperature, skin temperature, and main skin temperature are different in control groups with experimental groups. And probably the line to get a health, the main risk is around 40 degrees. The scientific evidence demonstrated that the hyperthermia reduced the time to exhaustion in cyclists, especially when the exercise is in the heat, and the hyperthermia responses are alter the prefrontal area in activity with players or with top-level cyclists in this case. But is the health problem? We don't know yet, but the effects on hyperthermia in front and brain activity are very clearly with different, very specific brain parameters alters when you compare control groups and hyperthermia groups. But all of this study have been realized inside an experimental condition inside the lab, when you can control all the variables around the effects. And probably one of the main limitations of these studies are the end. All of them are non-trained subjects or physical students. For that, if the hyperthermia can use fatigue, it's not unclear if the top-level athletes during real competition can experiment fatigue and if that could negative effect on performance. The main problem is when you compare different methods to measure temperature, the difference among them are very significant. Oral temperature, rectal temperature, tympanic temperature, the different methods to measure temperature in human body. But the responses and the difference among them are very significant. For that, new technologies to measure core temperature has appeared in the market during the last years. Probably one of the most successful devices to measure core temperature in human body is the core temperature system from United States. It's a simple pill with a radiometer here. There is a special pill with a thermosensometer. It's valid and reproducible, but he sent each 5 seconds signals to this receptor to get the core temperature when the pill is ingested in human body. This method was validated 4 years ago, and now we are using this method when the players or athletes are in the real competition. The main idea is to ingest the pill inside the body. When the pill arrives to the stomach, probably if we measure here in this point, the different temperature depends of how many liters of water or liquid have you ingested in your stomach. For that, we need more than 3-4 hours to get the final destination in the first part of the duoden, because here, the difference in temperature is very little, no more than 1 degree. So this simple method, but useful, during the last year have been using with other population worldwide, with soldiers during the war, with firefighters, with commands, and with astronauts. The experimental design is very simple, and we have to explain very good to athletes why they have to ingest the pill 3-4 hours before starting the race, connected the pill to the receptor, and sending signals each 5 seconds, and after the race, after the match, they will go to the bathroom for his personal needs and to get the pill, but please, it's not a very useful system for other guy. When you are working with this simple method, we are using in real competition with top-level players, top-level athletes. This is an example in World Cup in triathlons. And in a normal thermal condition, we have get temperatures between 34.1 and 4200.3. If you are going to the medical doctor and your temperature is around 40 degrees, your personal doctor say, please go as soon as possible to the hospital because you are in the limit of the health. The average during competition is around 40 degrees. In Tour de France, most of the cyclists, when we are competing in July, present this core temperature response, and we have analyzed the results in different top levels events like Tour de France, and obviously, especially in the last part of the race, all the cyclists present core temperatures more than 40 degrees. The same phenomenon with rowers in Olympic Games. Although rowing is a no-long endurance event, around 7 minutes, is the same phenomenon when the athletes present a high heart rate response and the core temperature is near 40 degrees. The same effects in triathlon, especially in the last two parts, in cycling and running. And during the last year, we were with a professional soccer team in Spain, and during the pre-season, when one practice, the players present the same response, especially in the last part of the practice. So the main problem is, when you are talking about performance, the first idea is to get a good health status, or we have to improve the performance. Probably, I don't know if you remember during the Olympic Games in LA, United States, when the one marathon arrived immediately finished the marathon race, and the image was spectacular because he presented a very special picture, and the worldwide has appeared in all the internet page. Yeah, I say it because one of the most successful scientists worldwide have said during the last 2 years that the next target, by a physiological point of view in top athlete, is the capacity to improve the performance during exercise in heat and high tension conditions. And think about it, because all the most important events worldwide, Olympic Games, World Cup in basketball, Ironman triathlons, marathon runs, marathon races, ultramarathon in the desert, are always in the summer during July and August. And in the worldwide, in this part of the year, the temperature and the humidity condition in the different places worldwide are very high. So the first diagnosis is, in sport real events, if the core temperature responses for athletes and players are around 42.5 degrees, we have to understand that the core temperature is a very important part to control with top-level athletes and top-level players. But the main question is affected by the hyperthermia and health? We don't know yet, but it's a possibility to help athletes and to help coaches is very important in the events to prepare before starting the race, to apply cooling techniques to decrease core temperature. It's very important to, during the race or during the matches, to ingest cool water among 5 or 8 degrees to reduce core temperature. And there is no scientific evidence yet which is the main mechanism or the main tool to decrease core temperature after finishing the match or during post-exercise period. So it's very clear that these simple techniques are very useful for coaches or players, and the last scientific evidence presents these different studies which are the main mechanisms to reduce the core temperature with athletes. But think about it, when we are talking with humans, could be very interesting before to analyze the effects of potential secondary effects in health with animals. Another interesting idea regarding to the mechanisms of the fatigue in top-level soccer players were to understand the main reservoir of energy for intense exercise. As you know, the glycogen index is a part of the metabolism during exercise. Very important papers in the sports physiology history has present, which is the main glycogen depletion and the intense exercise, especially when you are competing in 3 consecutive days, which is the main mechanism to get good depletion and good repletion for glycogen index to get good performance in the next race. The same effect in soccer matches, when it's demonstrated the group directed by James Vansgo in Copenhagen, when she analyzing a soccer match with Danish players, demonstrated that glycogen index decreased through the match, and in the second part of the game, the reservoir of the index is very low, very near the baseline levels comparing with the first match of the match. All the players decrease the glycogen index through the matches, and it's very spectacular data when they finish in the match, almost empty all the reservoir. For that, new studies about the main tool to apply immediately after the matches to replace and get faster recovery in the glycogen index demonstrated that the best combination for athletes is when you combine carbohydrate plus proteins plus leucine to get good insulin response during exercise. As you know, insulin responses is one of the best important human mechanisms to get a good anabolism adaptation. In this case, the worldwide leader in sports nutrition, Professor Jukendrew from Birmingham, has presented 2 years ago an interesting article about the responses based on time of different type of races to increase the glycogen index. But although we are talking about team sports, probably the main idea is to understand that the future of sports nutrition in top-level sports is to get one personalized for individual recovery for each player or each athlete. In this case, the tool that we have used during the last year is a new muscle glycogen system to measure in a non-invasive method designed by 2 these guys in the United States, and it's a very simple but a very expensive method too. They have designed a new ecography to measure glycogen index immediately finishing the matches. When the players, for example, in NBA are finishing the match immediately, they go to the locker room, and in this period of time, they have measured the glycogen depletion. I don't know what's up with the video. I don't know. It's okay? I don't know. I don't know. It's a simple ecography to measure. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's up. This looks okay, no problem. Yeah. It's a simple method to measure glycogen depletion when the athletes finishing. This new method is validated 1 year ago. They have presented good correlations between this method and the gold standard, the muscle biopsy, as well before and after. And immediately, approximately in 40 minutes, the expert scientists present to the coach a simple graph, very useful, to include all the depletion of the glycogen index of each player. Based on this data, the coach decides if the player can play the next game in 42 hours. This is probably one of the best technology now. They are playing in NFL, in American football, and in NBA, in basketball. And the data that we are presenting now with permission of Dr. San Millán is very clear, because in one simple graph, you can detect which is the depletion of the glycogen index in each player. For example, in that level, decrease to this level, which is the main percentage of the depletion. But probably the most interesting idea is to understand that before starting the match, the players have not present the full store of glycogen index. You understand what I mean? When you compare this method before starting the match, you can understand that the players have not present good glycogen replexon during the week, and they have present fatigue before starting the next match. So bridging the gap between science and practice, between the gap to get from science and coaches and get useful information for that, we have to use simple methods to recover, to get good health in athletes, simple things and useful. And for that, we have experience with working with top-level players. This is the locker room in the middle of the pre-Olympic tournament with our professional team. The main sponsor is Gatorade, as you see the cooler here. And immediately when the players arrive to the locker room before starting the second half of the game, they have prepared for each player one bottle of water with 6 degrees and one tooth to get good absorption, one quantity of enough glycogen, and one Gatorade ad hoc bottle with electrolytes for each player. When they arrive to the locker room, in the middle here they have a little towel to put in the neck with ice and a little alcohol to decrease the core body temperature. So with the 3 simple things, we can get to reduce the fatigue during the match, decrease core temperature, replace the glycogen index, and replace the electrolytes, individual electrolytes for each player. Although we are talking about team sports in this case, probably the future is to get good results in individual response for athletes. Probably the future is the individual recovery. For that, the new ideas for the companies, for the sports nutrition companies, is to get a gel, individual gel. You can measure the individual response for the athlete or player during the pre-season with the ions, with the temperature, with glycogen, and after that send the information to the company, and the company will send us, I don't know how many individual gels for all the seasons. Each gel with each number of its name of the player. Because during the last year, there have appeared different papers understanding which is the single response, single individual response of the top-level athletes. One question is very important in this case, to be a good or no responder, good responder or not responder with the different treatments. For that, new ideas about the gene response, to understand in humans, not only in sportman, who is the good responder or no responder when you apply different treatments, in this case recovery. What is my dream? So my dream is to get good technology to apply the best individual recovery method for each player or for each athlete. In this case, this is the locker room of the one professional team in NFL in the United States, American football. And you can see that in each bottle there is a name of each player. But if you can see, behind here appears the hour, 5:45 EM in the case of Corey Grant, and completely different in the case of Sean Coleman, because they have ingested the water at different time, because the individual response of the hydration is quite different. This is my dream, to individualize recovery protocol for players, for athletes, to help cover players, but always without interference, because the most important thing is the ball, the soccer, or the final performance. We have to apply, we have to help them. The use of technology is very important in sports elite, but sometimes we have to understand which is the cost benefit to use. Unfortunately, in my take-back message, take-home message for the lecture, we have to understand that little change with little details in sports elite could be determinant. Think about it, that the performance sometimes is less than 1%. Sleep well, good recovery, good core temperature. With technology, we can measure it to optimize the performance of the athletes. The first step always is to get good health before get the best performance, and unfortunately, always the money is the lack of the problem. If you not get good money to apply these methods, it's very difficult to work with these types of players. In my final comment with the last experience working with top class immunologists, one of the best youngest guys that had get the limit of the best and high peaks worldwide, I remember the experience 6 months ago when he went to the Himalaya, and this is the real photo. The hill is approximately around 60 meters. In this point of the ascension, he presented some problems, some intestinal problems. We have tried to measure no hyperthermia. We have to measure hypothermia, what's happening in this case when you are in more than 2,000 meters. And he said that he doesn't know what is the limit. And in this case, although the hill was in 60 meters, he returned to the base camp because he presented problems in the stomach. The hyperthermia and hypothermia response are very quiet. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that these contributions are to help the sport science applied to elite sports, and I hope that we'll see in future in soccer or team when you are preparing warm-up and me. And if you get another new technology to apply, please tell me as soon as possible, and I will try to apply in our protocols with top-level athletes. Thank you very much, and this is a big pleasure.